All right, so I bought an F450, and in this video I'm going to take you guys around it, show you my new truck, and explain why, with a fleet of pickups behind me, we needed yet another one. Now, I love my 97 F250. The old body style Ford over here has been the most reliable truck I've ever owned, but that 5.8 liter small block is not meant for heavy duty towing and hauling, which is why we bought the 18 Ram, and that didn't work out. But this, so we're going to start on the interior because there is clearly a lot going on in here. And the first thing is this awesome extended cab. Now on this one, unlike my 97 F250 and our 92 F250, the rear doors actually open. Now they do open backwards, which, you know, takes a little getting used to. Beyond the cab, the interior itself is in really good condition, especially because this truck was owned by a construction company before I got it. There's a lot of interesting stuff up front here. Yes, this is a 6-speed manual, and it has a manually engaged transfer case for the 4-wheel drive. That's really cool. It already has the Tekinoshia P3 electric brake controller, which is my favorite aftermarket brake controller. It's what I had in my 01 Super Duty, and it's what I have in my 97 F250 now. And then down here, this panel is an airlift rear air suspension system. This truck does have leaf springs under the back. Bring you guys back here, and I'm going to show you this airbag setup. Now note first, look how thick that leaf spring pack is. That is a lot of springs in there, but up on top of it we have this bracket and this bracket and this airbag right here in the center that is controlled by that unit in the cab. Unfortunately, that unit in the cab doesn't work. The compressor or controls or something about this system, the seller tells me, does not work properly. He never fixed it because with this truck being a 450, it was heavy enough to do what they needed to do without the help of the air springs. I suspect I'm going to find the same thing, that I don't really need them, but we're going to get into that and we're going to repair it anyway just because it's here, so it should work. There are a couple of more things here in the interior that you might find interesting, not the least of which is this exhaust gas temperature gauge. Now, if you ever tune a truck, ship a truck, modify a diesel truck, you want that, which leads us over here. Now, this red switch, I don't know what this does. The former owner doesn't know what this did. I'll have to chase those wires and figure that out. But this box here is some type of aftermarket exhaust brake controller. This truck does not have an actual exhaust brake. It has the factory exhaust back pressure valve, which we can talk more about later, but that little controller uses that valve to restrict exhaust flow and attempt to try to slow the truck down, similarly to an engine brake. The really interesting thing is right below there, though. This little white, where is it? This little white knob here, that's the knob for a TS 6-position aftermarket performance power chip. Now, there was one interior feature that I have already had to deal with, and that was the window tint. I took it off. I'm just not a fan. I understand it keeps the interior a little cooler, it adds some privacy, but in my case, it makes it a lot harder for me to see at night, and I just didn't really like that, so that came off this morning. But let's step out and we'll take a look, go around the exterior, take a look at the engine, the bed, and I'll show you the rest of the truck. The body of the truck is actually in really good condition considering that it was owned by a construction company. You can see our front bumper. Oh, if I don't fall on this ice patch, our front bumper has a pretty serious dent there, and our front fender has a little bit of a dent right there, I think you can see, but I'm pretty sure a paintless dent guy could get that one out no problem. One thing I am going to have to fix or change yet is these badges have been plasti dipped. The cab lights were also plasti dipped, but I sorted that out this morning while I was working on the window tint. So at first I was just going to take these cab lights off and try to take them and clean the plasti dip off of them. But after I kind of started getting into this a little bit, I realized most of these are pretty cracked as well as being plasti dipped. So I just went ahead and bought replacements. The replacements weren't very expensive, but the tricky part was actually finding factory style orange ones. I've just never been a fan of blacked out lights or smoked lights or anything that reduces the output of a light. And so many of these covers that are sold aftermarket are just like that. They're smoked or colored or blacked out, and that was just never really my style. I still need to clean these badges off, but that's no big deal. I'll get around to it. Overall, the body of this truck is in really good shape. If we come up here onto the bed and look down at the roof of the cab, you can see the cab has a couple of little rust spots up here. Nothing major, certainly nothing rusted through, but then we have another rust trail right here above this rear window that goes pretty much all the way across. Again, not rusted through, nothing I'm super concerned about having to have repainted right now. I absolutely love headache racks on pickup trucks, but even this morning while I was scraping off half a ton of stickers, that rack was a little bit in the way, and it certainly doesn't make having to paint the back of this cab any easier. So I will repaint the cab at some point while the bed is off, while we're doing the new bed, and then we'll go ahead and repaint the frame and everything else in there too. Now the bed we have on here is a pretty standard, pretty inexpensive flatbed. It's about 9 feet long, 8 feet wide, and it works. It has a gooseneck hitch in the middle of it, has toolboxes on both sides at the front, and if you're wondering whether or not I'm going to put the yellow service bed off the F-250 on this truck, the answer is no. The problem with any service bed of that style with the full side boxes is you can't pull a gooseneck trailer with them. The tongue of the trailer will actually hit those side boxes when you're turning, and it creates a pretty big problem. I bought this truck specifically for towing, hauling, and moving equipment with a trailer. I don't want to limit its ability to pull a trailer. Now there is a really nice compromise between one of the full service beds and just a standard flatbed like this, and that's a service deck. I absolutely love these service deck bodies. That's the biggest reason I bought a 450 instead of a 350, was so it can support the extra weight of a big body like that while still having a reasonable towing capacity. And one day I do plan to put one of those beds on here, but the problem with them is they're between $6,000 and $8,000 for just the bed, and that's almost as much as I paid for the entire truck. So one of those is going to have to wait a little while, but this bed is going to be getting a few changes. This truck is meant for towing, hauling, and moving equipment, so we're going to be adding a fuel transfer tank up here at the front of the box. That way we have plenty of fuel on board for the truck itself, and we can fill up whatever piece of machinery it is that we're moving at the time. I expect I'm going to need some more storage space, so we're probably going to add some more toolboxes on top of the bed up there at the front, similar to the cabinet you would have on a service deck. And then these side rails are these are coming off. I just really hate side rails on a flatbed. We're going to add a ton of work lights to this truck because I'm going to be working with it. We're going to be towing stuff, moving stuff, and especially right now, our daylight hours are pretty short. So we're going to be putting some lights on this thing so we can do whatever we need to do whenever we need to do it. So if you guys are interested in that, hit subscribe and click the little like button for the YouTube algorithm. That really helps out the channel, and it only takes a split second. I'll wait on you. So if you didn't hit like a second ago, I know you will right now, because this truck is equipped with the 7.3 liter Power Stroke diesel engine. This is honestly one of my favorite truck engines, but this is honestly one of my favorite trucks. Back in 01, 02, when these things were still brand new, I was 14, 15 years old. These were the trucks I was dreaming about then, and that never changed. So I'm really glad to have one back in the family. Now, the 7.3 is a wonderful engine. It is known for reliability, it's known for longevity, but one thing it's not known for is a ton of power. And fortunately, this one does not have any real hardcore engine modification. Now, you guys know I don't buy anything in absolutely perfect condition, and even though this truck came with 5 years of maintenance records from the previous owner, including brand new injectors and a brand new clutch for the 6-speed manual transmission in the last 20,000 miles, yeah, that's a good thing. There are a few little issues we're going to need to address that are pretty common on all of these Super Duty trucks. One of our issues is right here. This little airbox clip is actually broken. The plastic airbox is cracked and fallen apart, and it's holding but not by much. Now, if you remember the 2001 F-350 project truck we had very briefly here, you remember that airbox housing had been broken for a long time. Somebody ran it that way, and it had a 1/4 inch of dirt built up in the turbo. I don't want that to happen to this truck. I want to have this truck for a very, very long time. So we have a complete new air intake system on its way. It's the Ford heavy duty air intake system. It's my absolute favorite for these 7.3 trucks, and I'm going to tell you guys a lot more about it in another video when we fix that problem and fix another super common 7.3 problem at the same time. Our other super common 7.3 problem is right down here at the tip of my finger. If you look right there, I know it's dark and hard to see, but that is the exhaust up pipe donut. Ford used a really cheap donut style gasket on those, and they are all gonna leak at some point. The good news is there's a fix for that. There's been a fix for a long time. International, the company that developed this engine as the T444E for medium duty trucks, they didn't use those stupid little donut gaskets. They used a stainless steel bellowed flex section in an otherwise solid piece of material. The problem with those is they're super expensive. It's about $400 for a set of the International pipes that bolt right on no problem. And we're going to be fixing this problem for once and for all with a set of bellowed pipes very similar to the Internationals, but it didn't cost us $400. I'll tell you guys more about that when we fix our exhaust manifold problem. So while I was underneath the truck crawling around and inspecting it before I bought it, I discovered both of the exhaust manifolds have been leaking. I know it's really difficult to tell in there, but the rear cylinder on both manifolds has a ton of soot poured out around it, and it's clear it's leaking between there and the block. And we all know it wouldn't be one of my trucks if it wasn't leaking something under the bottom too. Now, right down here, we have got a leak at our transmission, and believe it or not, this is not coming from the bottom of the transmission. This is actually leaking out around the 6-speed shifter that we get to through the floor of the truck. I've got the new seal on the way for that. As soon as it gets here, we're going to pull that apart and fix that too. Speaking of surprises underneath the truck, there was one more thing I wasn't really expecting to find, but I wasn't upset to see either. That right there is a 4-inch straight pipe exhaust from the turbo back. An aftermarket exhaust like that isn't a performance modification I really worry about if I see on a vehicle. It is kind of nice that it's there, but I do think I'm going to end up putting a muffler on it. You know, long trips, moving equipment, moving vehicles, hauling stuff, that straight pipe gets old pretty quickly. So we're going to see about putting some kind of muffler on this thing. If you have a suggestion, even if it is leave it straight, comment down below and let me know what you guys recommend. Something like MBRP, is there another company I should look at? Comment down below, let me know what you think. So what's next for the F450 and the rest of the fleet you see here behind me? Well, on the 450, we're going to fix our mechanical issues. I've got parts already on their way to take care of everything. We're going to mount our transfer tank, and I'm going to bring you guys along not only through my mobile fueling setup, but really we're going to address the entire fuel situation overall, including a little bit of at-home, kind of longer-term storage as well. So if you want to see that, go ahead and subscribe. But aside from that, I'm hoping we can just put this truck to work and rely on it. One day I'd like to put a service deck on it. I would love to paint it and repair some of the body issues. I would absolutely love to put a new front bumper on it, but not yet. So with regard to the rest of the fleet, the F250 and the F250, the white one here is going to return to its role as primarily a reliable backup. This is our plow truck in the winter. I would love to put a hydraulic bale bed on this thing so I could use it for feeding the horses with, but I haven't found the right bed at the right price just yet. So when that comes along, we'll take care of it. The yellow F250 up here has a problem inside the rear axle. We're going to get a lot more in depth on that in another video. I already have the replacement part. Again, I just have to have time to go pick it up. So we're going to be taking care of that real soon. Hopefully getting that truck back on the road and putting it to work going out repairing equipment. So thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and more later.